Right, I've cast on 41 stitches. I don't know what I said in the last video, whether I said I was going to do about 50, but I've done 40 because my maths is terrible. I'll explain to you later about that, but for now, I've done 40 stitches. You will have done 125 and we will be ready to start. And the exciting thing is we start straight away in pattern, and I'm going to bring in this lovely chart. Now, please don't worry if you're not a fan of charts. Helen has also given you written instructions. You're very welcome to follow those. But if you aren't a fan of charts, or if charts are new to you and you fancy just maybe brushing up on them, I think this is a really great project to do it on, because there is enough going on this chart that it will stand you in really good stead for any that you encounter in the future. It's not hugely complicated, but there is a lot of really good common symbols on here, so it's just a really good way to brush up on your skills. So if you're fully familiar with charts, obviously fast forward, but if not, let's have a quick discussion about them. So you can see from this chart, and if you flip through the booklet, you will find, I think, a picture of a piece of the pattern, and when you hold the piece of the pattern, or a completed knitted piece of the pattern, I mean, next to this chart, you can see the representation. You can really kind of see, you can see that this represents what is going to be knit. And if you're completely unfamiliar with charts, each of these squares represents a stitch, okay? And all of the symbols within represent how you're going to make that stitch, but we'll come on to that in a minute. The numbers across the bottom are the same as the numbers across the top, and they relate to the stitches on your needle. Okay, so it's reading across the stitches on your needle. And the numbers at each sides relate to the rows as you work them. And you'll notice it's different with the numbers on the side, because the numbers on the right-hand side are different to the numbers on the left-hand side. The numbers on the right-hand side are even numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. And the numbers on the left are odd numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. So what that means, and it's a really good way of remembering, is if the number is printed on the right side, you read from right to left, and those are right side rows. Okay, so numbers on the right side rows, read from right to left. Dead easy. By right side row, I mean if you were working normal stocking stitch, it would be your knit row. Numbers on the left are wrong side rows, or the purl row if you were working normal stocking stitch. And if they're printed on the left, you read the chart from left to right. Okay, so that's quite self-explanatory. So as I've said, each of those squares represents a stitch, but you will clearly see we've only got 17 stitches here, and you've got 125 on your needle. So what is that all about? That is where this red box, I've just about got it all on, but the red box, that's where that comes in, and everything within that red box is a repeat. So what that means is if I'm starting on row 1, which of course I will be, I will knit these first, or I will make these first 3 stitches, and then I hit this red box. And the next, I think it's 11, isn't it? 11 stitches, is it, or 12? 2, 4, 6, 8, it's 12 stitches. The next 12 stitches are within a red box, which means I keep repeating those next 12 stitches over and over again until I've only got 2 left on my needle. So on my work, I'll do that 3 times, I think. On yours, you will repeat that 10 times on each row. Okay, 10 times. And then you'll only have 2 left. When you're coming back the other way, you'll knit 2, repeat that row 10 times, and you'll have 3 left. So your repeat is this bit in the middle. So you don't need to have a chart for every single stitch, because this bit in the red is repeated lots of times to use up the stitches that are on your needles. Right, so all of the boxes, or some of the boxes, not all of them, some of them have symbols in and some of them don't. And that just shows us what kind of stitch we're going to make at that point in the chart. So if the box is blank, there's a little section of blank boxes here, that just means you're going to do a normal stitch. So you're going to knit on the right side and purl on the wrong side. So there's nothing special about those stitches at all. If there is a symbol in the box, we've got a key here to tell us what we're doing. So you'll be familiar with, you know, the actual stitches. It's just how they're represented on a chart. So if you've got a little black dot in there, it means you're going to instead of knitting on the right side, you will purl on the right side, and instead of purling on the wrong side, you will knit on the wrong side. So you're kind of just reversing what is normal on stocking out there. The circles represent yarn overs. So there's 3 different ways of making a yarn over in this pattern, depending on, or anywhere really, depending on whether you're going from a knit to a purl, a knit to a knit, or a purl to a knit, and we'll cover that as we work through. And the little dashes, forward slash and backslash, they are relating to decreases. So you've got your right leaning decrease here, which is a knit 2 together, and your left leaning decrease here, which is slip 1, knit 1, pass, slip stitch over. And the little bird footprints, 4 of them in this chart, they are central double decreases, so where you're going to decrease 2 stitches in one go. So you're going to slip 2 as if to knit 1, and then pass the 2 slip stitches over. Again, don't worry about remembering that. We'll work through them and actually show them in action. Oh look, on the key it actually says 12 stitch repeat. I didn't need to count them, did I? So that is your chart. We're going to obviously start at the bottom and work to the top. Not obvious. Why have I said obvious? If you don't know about charts, you start at the bottom, but you're starting at row 1, and you're going to work all the way through to the top. So our pattern is like a 38 row repeat. So I think we should get started. Right, I'm going to keep this chart here, so it's still in shot but kind of out of the way of what I'm actually doing on my needles, because what I plan to do is to do enough of the stitches that you will have encountered literally every kind of stitch there are. So probably up to, say, I don't know, row 9, up to and including row 9, that will have covered every kind of stitch within this repeat, I think. So that's my hope, and I won't obviously make you sit through 9 full rows of knitting. We'll edit in and out, so hopefully just find the bits that are useful to you. Right, so I'm going to start my knitting stitch 1, row 1, and it is a little blob, which means normally I'm on the right side, so normally I'd be knitting, but as it's a little blob, I'm going to purl. And you will very quickly see that we've got purl, knit, purl, knit. So there's a nice little pattern going on there, which is going to be easy for my poor brain to remember. So the first 3 stitches, purl, knit, because that stitch has got nothing in the box, so I know that's a straightforward knit stitch, and then purl. Right, I've now hit that red box, which means I am now about to start my repeat. Now, if you're new to lace, or not new to lace, but like me and do get in a bit of a muddle at times, my big tip for this would be to put stitch markers at the beginning and end of every repeat, because then it's so easy to see if when you get to the end of the row you're missing a stitch or you've got one extra. It's so easy to see where you've lost or made it, because you know that the amount of stitches between those stitch markers should be 12, and if they're not, you know where you've gone wrong. So you got 10 repeats of this. So if you haven't got endless supplies of stitch markers, do not worry, because you can make them really easily with little bits of cotton, which I'm now going to show you. I've made a few here. I've just got some normal cotton, and I've just made a little slip knot and trimmed the ends down, and all I'm going to do is slip that over my needle, and that is perfectly adequate and functional stitch marker. I know that I'm now going to begin my 12 stitch repeat, and that is marked really easily with a little bit of cotton.